cloud.
Okay, welcome to February 27th, 2024 session of Tangerine SDR and Hamside technical session with Clementine SDR involved. So we're getting closer to the eclipse, just a little over a month. And so everybody's getting busy. So for me, I've been fiddling with radios this weekend, trying Franco's distribution to follow Tom's uh, video. And Michael and I were experimenting with some other things, and I still need to talk to him when I get a chance about exactly what happened and what didn't happen. So that's it. Otherwise, I had some remnant forestry work, which was my profession before I retired. I was a professor. And so I had to deal with some proposals that were lingering. So that was it. Next on the list, we have Nathaniel, W2NAF. Go ahead.
Thanks, Dave. Things are going fine here. Um, the Hamsa Workshop Committee met this week, and we have come up with a program which I can put the current draft program in the chat in 1 second. And I'll be working with Salisa starting tomorrow to get out travel information to people. So I know that that needs to happen very imminently, and so we are working on it. So you can see a draft of the program there. It looks like a really excellent program. I'm really looking forward to all of this coming to pass. Um, let's see. Also, important here is we Hyomin had submitted a manuscript to Hardware External, which Dave Witten was a major contributor to. And there were some hangups with that manuscript because of all things, their automatic plagiarism checker claimed that we used the text from the Hamsci website, which of course is true, which we wrote that. So they said you can't publish it in two places. So we had written back to them. Hyomin wrote back twice saying, look, the Hamsci website's not a peer-reviewed journal. It's just a website. It shouldn't count for the duplicate publication policy. And their editor's assistants, just all they did was send us the same plagiarism checker report back without any comment. So finally, I emailed the editor in chief and CC'd the editor's assistants on the whole thing and explained it again to the editor in chief. And within 15 minutes, he got back to me and said, yes, this should not be a problem. Please resubmit the manuscript and make sure I get assigned as the editor. So that's where it was left on Friday. I don't know if you haven't got around to resubmitting it yet, but we now have the attention of the editor in chief on this matter. So hopefully it will not go, we won't have those same kind of hiccups going forward here. But it is very interesting that for a journal that's supposed to be promoting open hardware, open source development, that they would give us such a hard time about our practice of developing this stuff on an open community website, trying to do the things that they're encouraging us to do. But this is not the first time I have run afoul with the editor's assistants over some technicality like this. That happened with the Frontiers paper as well when we had so many co-authors and it had to go justify our case. But that's a lot of what we have to do. So it's moving along. So the Hamsci workshop is coming along. And I think things are going well. So back to net.
Very good. Next, let's see. Lost my list. I have to get it back here. Just a second. Okay, next on the list we have Michael, AAAK. Go ahead, Michael.
Oh, thank you very much. Greetings to everyone listening. Back to you, Dave.
Okay. Next on the list is Dave, KD0EAG. Go ahead, Dave.
Um, Not a lot to report here. I've been working with the Grape 2 people still a bit, and they're in a frantic flurry of trying to get ready. Um, Otherwise, I have guests here from Europe, and so I've had my hands full. My car's misbehaving, so on and so forth. But life goes on. That's about it for me.
Okay. Next on the list is Jim, K4BSE. Go ahead, Jim.
Oh, good evening. I think since my problems weekend before last with my grape setup, things are running better now. I had a power supply go out on me, and in the process of recovering from that, discovered or broke a ground connection on the audio output from the grape board. But I got that set, and I was just looking at it a few minutes ago. Looks like everything is running better now. And I started trying to build myself a some network attached storage, building it out of a grape and an extra super sized hard drive I had. I'm not using a grape, I mean using a Raspberry Pi, wrong fruit. Got a little bit of a problem on that, and before I got that worked out, remember that I needed to get my taxes into the tax preparer. And it takes a couple of days, thanks to some stuff my wife does that she's never met a receipt she'd keep in her life. And so I had to, it takes me a little time to recover from all that, but got that shipped off today. And so I can get back on my network attached storage project. And if anybody has implemented that with a Raspberry Pi, I would appreciate any tips. I was hitting a problem and I haven't had a chance to get back to it yet to see if it's still a problem, but I think it is. Back to net K4BSE.
Okay. Next on the list, we have David in one HAC. Go ahead, David.
Good evening, everyone. We seem to be getting an early spring right now. It's pushing 50 degrees today. Not good for February, but
We were in the 70s.
life happens.
We were nearly.
Yeah, though I will say this is what I call yo-yo weather because it keeps going up and
Yeah.
down and up and
Yeah.
down.
Yeah.
But we're getting our in final assembly for our AM Doppler receivers and soon to be boxing them up and sending up to sites. So hopefully we're in good shape for being ready for the eclipse and coming to figure out where I will end up. Probably northern Vermont, unless weather does something unusual. It's about 2.5 hours from here to get to the center of the eclipse. So not bad, but I'm not going to Texas like a lot of people I know are. But anyway, back to net.
Okay. Next on the list is Dylan. Go ahead, Dylan. Are you there? I don't see Dylan. Sometimes he's on the phone to listen to us or whatever. We'll get back to him. Next on the list, we have Franco, K4VZ. Go ahead, Franco.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. I've been working on this little program to connect an NQ radio to John Melton's program to connect to see the spectrum. And kudos to Tom for his nice video because that helped a lot to see the video. And the other thing I saw that Paul Elliott is here too, Michael. So we have him in
Yes.
person.
Yes.
Good to see you, Paul. Back to net.
Okay. Next on the list, we have John, WI6P. Go ahead, John.
You're muted, John. Let's try that. Yeah.
There we go.
Got it. Sorry. I'll just say good evening to everyone. I'm trying to get my new 888 X receiver online. Thanks to Franco and Rob for their pointers, heading me in the pointing me to the sources that I need to try to get that thing to play. And that's about it. So back to net.
Okay, well, welcome to the use of RX888. Next on the list, let's see, is Jonathan, KC3EEY. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Hi everybody. Nothing to report this week. Back to the net.
Okay. Next on the list is Michael, AC0G. Go ahead, Michael.
Good evening, everybody. I was up in Fargo, North Dakota this past week. My mom celebrated her 90th birthday, and my two brothers, so the three of us snuck up there and surprised her, which was quite fun. Not enough to make her heart stop or anything, fortunately, but we had a good time. And while I was there, I installed a RX 888 and a little B-Link computer to run it and have that up and running using a loop on the ground antenna. And maybe Paul can weigh in, because I was experimenting with different combinations eventually of low noise amplifiers and shelving filters, and I ended up with a solution where I use the amplifier only without the shelving filter, because I think there's some kind of flattening effect in the low noise amplifier already. In any event, that seems to be still running. Also was doing just some preliminary hacking to what I think Franco's probably got a more definitive solution for, which is the integration of John Melton's code to display the full spectrum in conjunction with Whisper Daemon. It was possible to throw together a couple of little quick hacks to get the two running concurrently, so I could actually see what the full spectrum looked like and identify some potential things to remedy while Whisper Daemon was actually running. So hopefully we get that facility in with Franco and I guess Phil's help as well. That'll be a big help to for anybody setting up a 888 using Whisper Daemon to optimize their setup, whatever it happens to be. Back to net.
Very good. Thanks for all that. And next on the list is Paul, WB6CXC. Go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me talking?
Yes.
Okay, great. I was messing around with WSJTX on the computer, and that always seems to screw up my audio ports. Oh, hey, I'm just here to listen to what everybody else has to say. A lot of really cool stuff that you guys are doing. Michael, about the filter and the shelf filter and all that. I really don't know what is needed for any given situation. I mean, I've got a little bit of theoretical knowledge, but basically I'm designing these things based on suggestions from other people who are actually in the trenches using these things. So I'm looking for feedback. Somebody tells me, hey, we got this problem, and maybe something like this would help, and I try to come up with something, and that's about it. I am in the process of putting together my own 888 and little nuke, the little what is it, the B thing, the B computer. Going to put out a receiving site here on San Juan Island. Should be a pretty low noise spot, I hope. I haven't done a survey yet. So I'm looking forward to that, and I expect I'll learn a lot of good practical lessons from trying to get that set up. Also, as you probably know, I've been working on my the Whisper Sound, aka Beacon Blaster. I guess we figured Whisper Sound was a classier name. I mean, I have to admit it. Beacon Blasters. Anyway, and I've got 5 prototypes. Well, they actually look pretty finished, and they're up and running. So I'm hoping that with the Beacon Blasters and the Whisper Sonds, we'll have some nice, some good transmit sites, deployed. I'm going to have one here. But anyway, I'm just here to, I like to watch, so that's what I'm going to do. But
Oh,
I love
being
talking about
there
any of this. If
reference.
anybody has a question for
Love it.
anything that relates to me, by all means. But I'll pass it on now.
Yep. And it's nice to put a face to the name. Many of us have done business with you, and we like the products that you seem to be producing, and we're excited about it. So
That's great. By the way, I mean, I was completely retired as of about 24 years ago. No, literally,
yeah.
I got lucky in the startup telecom fiber optic. Just right 1999 is when we got acquired. If we'd waited 6 months, the bottom would have fallen out. But and we had a good product. I'm proud of what we did. It wasn't vaporware or anything. So anyway, I'm just doing this for fun now. But we'll see. I tell people I may be retired, but I'll always be an engineer. That's just who I am, not just what I did. So you guys are keeping me. It's good for me. So thank you all.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, very good. And next on the list, I'm going to jump over Rob and go to Tom Yarnish, KJ6MKI. Tom, are you there?
No.
Yeah, I am. I'm one of the few left coast Whisper people. I fly on the wall and deeply indebted to Rob and Paul now for their innovations in Whisper. Most recently, I'm running an RX 888 and the B-Link computer that Rob has helped me get established. Without his expertise, I would be still working 2-meter repeaters or something like that. Paul Elliott is also an amazing guy, and I've never seen anybody bring a product to the marketplace faster than Paul. He does beautiful work. So in that sense, I'm a fly on the wall, but I've been working with Rob for many years on Whisper projects. My last challenge is to take Glenn Elmore's GPS reference modification for the ICOM 7300 and install it, which is taxing every skill, every physical skill I've learned the last 50 years in terms of soldering to almost invisible components. And it's only something Glenn himself could do. Anyway, that's this week's project. I've got my 7300 open on the deck here, and I'm practicing screwing up other boards with the hopes that I can get 2 solder joints correct on this one. I think you only get 1 bite at the apple with this 7300. You throw it away and go somewhere else. But anyway, that's as much as I have for now. I'm spotted continuously on the different Whisper bands thanks to the Kiwi and the 888. And I marvel at the craftsmanship of these guys who are putting this stuff together. That's about it. Back to Ned.
Okay, very good. And I'm going to go to Tom McDermott, N5EG, and I'm going to throw in my kudos for your video already. So very good, Tom.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. I just installed Zoom on a more recent version of Ubuntu. And it's never set up quite right out of the box. So
right.
There's a few tweaks.
You are a little weak, Tom.
Good evening to everyone. First of all, thanks to Franco for all the work he did. His install instructions were great. We worked through the library issues. got that all done and up and running, and I was able to get out a video Saturday night, about an 8 or 9 minute video on how to bring up the Spectrum display. A lot of fun and great bunch of folks to work with. I'm just amazed at how quickly Franco could take a John Melton code snippet and turn it into something that runs. It's just absolutely phenomenal. I did find a bunch of FM broadcast stations coming through on the Spectrum display, and I dug a transmit low pass filter for linear amplifier out, and patched that into the RX-888 receiver, and that pretty much eliminated all the FM carriers and cleaned that up. It's a 0 to 30 meg. I think it's about 80 dB of rejection outside the pass band, so pretty good filter. Cleaned all that up, and things are working real well. I put in Phil's latest patch that got rid of the amplitude jumps on the Spectrum display. Things look real clean now, and we've had an offline discussion about resolution, bandwidth, and sweep rates and bin sizes, things like that. We can do a few little tweaks to make things work perhaps more like a hardware analyzer than the way things are going. Back to the group.
Well, very good, Tom. And now we'll call on Rob Robinette, AI6VN. Go ahead, Rob.
Hi. Well, my major activities, I can't, a whole dozen of them, but I did go out to KPH on Saturday and restored it. So we once again have a GPS disciplined receive site there. And it's reporting both WWV and all the whisper bands from a 888. So there's so many of these sites, it's really hard for me to monitor that they're all running. But I think that one's running, although Tom has volunteered to go out next Saturday and finish up a little bit of B-Link tweaking. Those of you who have the B-Link, the fan settings in the BIOS are incorrect for our usage. So if you have a B-Link and you haven't adjusted your fans, you should do so for dramatically better performance from that platform. So I'm shipping off a Whisper Son 6 to Michael A8K. So Michael, you may have it by the end of this week. And I'm including a combiner, a 4-band combiner. So but that's all I have. So hopefully that you'll be able to get up and on the air next week, and in anticipation of the eclipse, we'll have Michael being in that region of the U.S., so near the totality. So that's there's a whole bunch more stuff we could talk about, but mostly I would like to I need to talk to Phil and Tom and others. I didn't have time to look at Tom's video. I want to incorporate the Tom Melton's webpage into the installation process for Whisper Daemon. And don't know. Are you guys all hearing a bunch of background noise? Is that my fault, or is it coming from someplace else?
I don't hear.
I don't hear it.
Yeah, I don't hear.
Okay, well then, okay, yeah, I hear it from here. I don't know where it's coming from. Anyway, so I want to try to make it a standard part of the installation package, but it's not clear to me how I do that. So Franco, I need a little bit of tutoring. Right now, when someone specifies that there's a K9 radio named K9Q in the Whisper Daemon configuration file, I pull Phil's code and compile it and install it for the users. The 100 or so Whisper Daemon users are just not going to be able to go through the whole process of separate install for Phil's code. So I'd like to add the web interface so that it becomes an automatic part of the installation, such installations. And I went and looked at the at the website, John Melton's, and it looks like he has a whole clone of K9Q. So
I'll show you later, Rob.
okay. Well, I need a little time with you, Franco. Anyway.
Yeah.
That's all I can think of at the moment. I should give somebody else a chance to talk. Back to Net. Dave, you want to take it back? You're muted.
You're
Rob,
muted, Dave.
I did want to mention that Michael and I experimented a little bit this week, Saturday, with John Melton's code in my Whisper Daemon install. And we did get it working, but then I did something that messed it up. So Michael and I'll spend a little time figuring out what we did, but it's very doable having that as part of your system.
Well, I think it's essential in evaluating a site. I think, Tom, maybe you saw the value of having the spectrum in that you probably would have missed the FM aliasing as a problem.
Yeah, it's absolutely indispensable.
Yeah, I don't know how you can deploy a site without having such a spectrum display, which I think is one of the strengths of the Whisper Daemon Grape installation. By the way, I think that Nathaniel proposed that Paul and I give a joint presentation at HamSci convention on the hardware Whisper Daemon receive system, the 888, and so on. And and along with that is Paul would give a presentation about his Whisper Sans, and we'll have a demo. We'll be bringing the hardware with us, and give you all a chance to see it, maybe even in operation. It's pretty simple to set up.
Yeah, at least into a dummy load or something, but yeah, that'll be fun. Hope we can do that.
I have a whole pack of these little Wi-Fi stub antennas. I use those.
Yeah.
They screw right on to the SMA connectors on the Whisper Sound, and you get a little antenna. And it's horribly inefficient on 80 meters, but you're only going about a foot to the receiver. So
That
Yeah, and we can
Only-
team one of those onto the dummy load for the transmitter, so it'll leak a little bit of RF into the air.
that's the other way to do. Just put the dummy load on it, and it leaks enough. But
that will be fantastic.
yeah. So anyway, this is this is a Whisper Sound 6 in its packaging going on. This is I'm going to ship it to Michael tomorrow. So
Well, I just can say, on what was it, Wednesday? Yeah, it was Wednesday, right, Rob? The Whisper Daemon user group. I was able to get that Spectrum display running with a Whisper Daemon site, and it was really a marvelous exercise in just kind of walking through. Well, take this out of the chain from the antenna to the RX 888, see what effect it has, put it back in, unplug the LNA, plug it back in, take the LNA out, change the positions of the DC isolation transformer, and so on and so forth, and just watch what effect it had on the spectrum. It was a terrific learning experience, and also somewhat revealing about the characteristics of the little bits of hardware that were interposed between the antenna and the 888. It was.
In the end, what were you able to? What kind of improvements did you achieve?
I'm sorry, you logged in after I mentioned this. I ended up taking the shelving filter out of the chain. altogether, because I'm pretty sure that the low noise amplifier that I was using, I do not know what the specifics are of its internals. It was applying some kind of a flattening effect already, and putting the shelving filter in addition to that was having a worse effect. So all I have in there now is the DC isolation transformer, the low noise amplifier, and that's it. And that, I think, for now, with the equipment that I had there, was the best solution I could come up with. But
You don't have an anti-aliasing filter then?
no.
Or did you? Well,
no, it's pretty simple. I mean, I only had the equipment I brought up with me. And I can go back up and add something. I had to turn after the shelving filter was removed, and with the low noise amplifier I had to turn the front end gain in the RX 888 down a bit, so I was not overloading and getting so I wasn't overloading in effect. Anyway, that's the kind of thing that you can only experiment with in real time, having this spectrum view. And whether I was able to succeed in optimizing it or not, everybody will benefit from it, depending upon what their antenna configuration is and what equipment they have to filter and otherwise reduce noise and do some amplification. It's going to be a really great addition.
Can't we take some of these amps and sweep them with an RF generator and get an idea of what their performance curve is?
Well, that's exactly the thought that occurred to me, was that I was just too ignorant of what it was I was actually deploying. I didn't know what its electrical characteristics were, and I probably should have done my homework ahead of time about it. And I don't know what some of the varieties are of, you buy something called an LNA, or what the hell is it really doing? How much amplification is it doing? How linear is it? Are there any other filtration things used in it?
It's good if you can identify the actual components on there. Usually they use just a small little looks like a transistor, but it's something from Mini Circuits Labs, and you can you can check the specs. And also I don't want to invite too much more work here, but if somebody needs to have something characterized, an amplifier, and they want to send it to me, I can run it on my equipment. I got spectrum analyzers and tracking generators and attenuators and power supplies, and that's how you're going to characterize an amplifier. Matter of fact, I'm even set up now. I just did that recently, built some stuff so I could do third order intermodulation distortion, which is an overload characteristic. And excuse me. And anyway, so these are the kind of measurements you're going to want to make, or at least a subset of those, in order to at least be able to duplicate, have an idea what makes a difference and what doesn't.
Well, I mean, did you mention, Paul, you are building a successor to your filter, which
right now it's an unsuccessor, but it's a filter with a preamp, the shell filter, preamp, low pass, and just my board layout for the low pass. I was a little bit too optimistic about component placement, and I'm just getting blow by across the filter. Its ultimate attenuation isn't really what I would like. I mean, it's probably useful the way it is, but it does kind of suck. So anyway, it's going to be at least another spin on that. So I wouldn't, don't not do something because you anticipate this fancy new filter preamp from me, because it's going to be a while. But that's the plan. And actually would love to have some conversations with people about, how much gain do you really need, and where should the amplifier be? What's all these things are trade-offs with gain and noise and overload. And, one size will not fit all, but I'd like to come up with something that's useful enough for most people, and then people that have special cases, they can add stuff on either end or come up with something completely different. But So I'm optimistic, but I'm not ready yet with that little thing.
Well, I do want to say, Michael, I do believe this is equipment, the things needed to do that are things I have. My only problem is I'm not knowledgeable enough yet about how to use them effectively to characterize these things. I need someone to tutor me a little in that. But I have a spectrum analyzer with a tracking generator and a signal generator that covers the range we're interested in. So those things, I'm just too, innocent and innocent's hardly the word, but naive to know exactly what I can and can't do with what I've acquired. Those are fairly new things for me.
You're not too far away from having everything you need. I mean, you add a couple of attenuators to that, and then I'm sure one of us could walk you through it, or there are probably tons of videos online showing how to do it also. But you're real close to being able to do that right now.
Okay. I thought that was what I was buying, for exactly that sort of thing, and filter characteristics and stuff like that also. But a lot of things to learn in this world.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm
Well,
still
that's certainly
learning.
what I experienced. Just kind of sitting there with an antenna on one end, the RX 888 on the other end, and then a variety of things to sort of switch in and switch out between them, and then with the spectrum display, being able to see immediately what the effect was, and learn a little bit. In as much as anything else, I was learning a lot about how ignorant I was about what I was doing and what the components that I was using were doing. So it's the kind of kick in the butt that you need to go back and and I'll gladly take you up on your offer to use your spectrum analyzer and
Well, it's really
and
nice to
try
have
to
this.
learn about what's going on.
Really nice to have this feature. You can look at the spectrum, but it would be nice to understand how closely that reflects what a lab instrument might tell you, measuring the same thing. That's my thought.
We're doing this at a very wonderful time in history. I mean, this stuff is the cheap stuff. I mean, I've got like 3 spectrum analyzers, and well, this is a VNA, but the tiny SA is just like this, and the thing is actually extremely useful. I got one just because, how in the world can something this cheap be any good at all? Well, it is any good at all. It's quite good. So anyway, for people that want to learn this stuff or just test their own gear, it is way easier and way less expensive than it used to be. So that's a wonderful time that we're doing this.
Yeah, Mike, you've got those things.
Well, yeah, I just have to learn how to use them, and I have to have them in the right place at the right time.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that
We
anyway.
can sit and characterize some of these amplifiers, because I have some of the same ones you have sitting on my desk here somewhere, and getting deeper and deeper. But we've got some tools. We can look at these things, and I've got a little fancier spectrum analyzer than that, and so forth.
Well, one of the bottom line messages to me was, we sometimes look online to find an LNA to get, and they're not all created equal. They're not all going to have the same kind of effect on what's on what you want, and so
Almost a lot.
that bears looking at more closely and understanding the specific characteristics of that amplifier, and in addition to what it might do in combination with the other elements in the chain.
And at HF frequencies, depending on the antenna, you may not actually need an LNA, maybe more of a MNA, medium noise figure amplifier is good enough. So you gotta, but overload is probably as much a problem or more of a problem than the noise floor. But it, it depends on the frequency and everything else. So, but at these HF frequencies, we don't necessarily need the absolute, we're not in the microwave region, so that makes a big difference. So then a lot of these LNAs, they're up to 2 gigahertz or something, and that's great, but we don't really need it. So it's a whole bunch of stuff to work with. So did I? I was just waving the new Whisper Sonde in front of the screen. I don't know if you guys got to see it in all its glory, but there are 5 of these things now, and they all work. So I'm pretty happy with that.
Yes.
And there are a lot more. If you've seen inside of a beacon blaster, that's a lot of different boards and interconnects, and it works, but it's I wouldn't want to drop that thing off a truck. And this guy here, it's one PCB, one circuit board. It's a lot cleaner.
It would be good if we could find a site in the northeast rather, to deploy one of your Whisper Sondes during the eclipse, because we have Clint KA70EI is going to be transmitting using his home-built Whisper Sonde, 8-band. So he'll be transmitting from Dallas. Michael, Dave, and the Daves are going to have, I've shipped them a Whisper Sonde, which has arrived. So hopefully you guys will, in the next week, maybe get a chance to set that up. I don't know. You're going to set it up at Dave Witten's house, I hear? That's your plan?
Yeah, that's the plan.
That's the
sounds
plan.
good. And
Okay. He's been running a
Zactec.
Yeah, Zactec, but it was just something we had and he wasn't receiving, so we thought that's a good place to put the transmitter.
Yeah, what's the antenna?
Right now it's a chameleon, but Michael
I've
is
got
going to give it
a multi-band vertical.
Oh, well, that's all you need.
A Comet CHA
okay.
209 something or other. I can't remember the designator, but it's pretty
Uh-huh.
decent vertical.
Well, that's good. Well, now I think I sent you a 4-band combiner. So you can only do 4 bands to the one antenna.
It sounds like I need to make another batch of 6-band combiners. What do you think?
I think so. I think everybody's going to want at least 6 bands. I mean, you can't do better than 6. I mean, I know that for manufacturability, that you cannot get the component tolerances that are appropriate for the very sharp 8-band
yeah,
approach.
I mean the 8-band, I can make it a little bit tighter, but man, that thing's a pain. And also, I mean, how many bands can you put on one transmit antenna anyway? So I don't know.
The end fed, that end fed that I measured that thing there, and we had it at Tom Yarish's set up there, and it was resonant. Maybe the worst case was SWR 2-1 or something, 2.5-1 on 30 meters, but it was resonant on all the other bands, including 17 and 12. I mean, so it was it's of course not necessarily very efficient in those higher bands, and then you get all the lobing and so on associated with such a long wire at high bands, but it worked. And so if you wanted, my experience was, and I think you have one of those, don't you, Paul? One of those.
Yeah, I got the end fed, the 80-meter multi-band end fed.
Yeah. Have you ever looked at it with your? You look at it with your VNA. I think you'll be surprised. Well, you have to have it up at least the way that we did it the way they suggested, which is a 36-foot vertical. It's right, and then the rest 70 feet horizontally, and it was really I was impressed by it as a transmit antenna.
So if we're
Yeah, what
using a
was
4-band combiner, which band should we use for the Eclipse? 5,
Well,
10, 15, and 20?
No,
Um,
I don't think
Well,
so.
well, I mean, the 4-band as it is now, I think was 80, 40, 20, and
20 and
10.
10.
But I
80, 40,
I
20, 10. Okay.
I mean, they're basically octave spaced on the 4-band. I I can do more 6-bands. I mean, if we want to deploy more 6-band combiners, once I get set up to make one, I can make I can make 5 or more.
Yeah, well,
But
one
we
of
can
the
run a separate antenna, right?
yes,
I
then
mean, so we
that's
combine it into one for the one vertical, but then have a separate antenna for the other frequencies.
yes, that's
Okay,
but in fact,
that'll
I
work.
think that's what Michael's going to do up in Detroit.
Remember at least with the beacon blaster and the whisper sound, you need a filter at the output of any port. You just don't want to connect an unfiltered port into an antenna, unless you like transmitting square waves. So the filter combiner does that filtering. Now I've got boards for single band filters, and you can actually tee together single band filters and make a multi-band filter combiner out of them. They're designed so that they don't interact very much. So if you anyway, but I think we're going to need, if we're going to feed multiple antennas, we're going to probably need some single band filters as well available.
Does somebody make those? I mean, you could use. There are people have manufactured I mean, QRP Labs has kits for this, but
yeah, you can, but those tend to be pi network with input capacitors,
yeah,
and they go low impedance above the frequency corner frequency,
yeah,
and I'd rather my filters go high impedance outside of the nominal frequency, which is it puts less stress on my output drivers if I don't have to feed a
capacitor,
an AC short for the higher harmonic.
Yeah.
I don't know if it makes that much difference, but it sure does when you're combining them, but maybe not as an isolated filter.
Well, I to go back to the what bands should you transmit on? I think we were surprised at the October. One of the things we learned from the October eclipse was that the bands we thought would be most interesting were not actually. Gwen's greatest insights came from 80, 40, 30. Okay, and that eclipse. Now it may be different. Every eclipse is different, and this one is going to, the April eclipse is going to be very different. Midday as opposed to morning, and of course totality versus annularity, and so it may be 40, 30, 20, 17. It's hard to say. If you limit yourself, if you say, well, this is what's going to be interesting, then that's what you're going to see. One of the, I think, one of the things the strengths of the whisper sound is when paired with a whisper demon, multi-band Kiwi or 888, you transmit and receive on everything. So who knows? If there's something happening, if there's some transient phenomenon that occurs on 10 meters, you pick it up if you're transmitting and listening on 10 meters. And everybody will be listening. I mean, all the whispers, demon sites will be listening on all the bands. So what was lacking and what stimulated me to encourage you at this project, Paul, was that we were listening, but people weren't transmitting. And they were doing band scanning at best.
And the transmitting maybe wasn't as stable as it needed to be too.
And even the QDX, GPS stimulated QDX, we're still uncertain of its real spinal stability. You know, the how much imperfection does it introduce? Doesn't
with the GPS adapter, like my little card or something.
Yeah.
That thing is rock solid as far as frequency drift.
Yeah. Well, as far as frequency drift, spreading is what the other is. I know that you did some studies looking at his algorithm because
and the performance of the new algorithm. I mean, that it's amazingly good as far as tracking the input audio.
You mean Hans?
Yes, Hans new code.
Yeah. But he does do something quite different. I mean, he's measuring the zero crossing times.
Yes.
To determine the frequency, and he seems, and that's going to be, I guess, 48 kilohertz means that he's got 24K samples between zero crossings, and I guess that means it's fractional millihertz of uncertainty there. I mean, if you had
I measured it to millihertz accuracy. I could show you my my plots on the thing if you want me to show you the modulation
about
on that thing.
The practical part, though, if we've got a 6 channel transmitter with the beacon blaster and a 4-channel combiner, I've got 2 extra channels, right? So do I use 2 separate individual channel isolating filters, or maybe one other 4-channel one and just do 3 with each? And then I've got 6. I mean, what would be the most efficient?
I mean,
and the
you're
simplest
going
thing
to want
do?
6 different frequencies. One thing I did in the early days here was I had 2 antennas. One of them I fed with a 4-band combiner, and the other one I cut the antenna so it was I don't know, resonant at 10 megahertz and 30 megahertz. I forget. Anyway, I had 2 other frequencies, and I made myself 2 single band filters in a combiner and coupled them together. So I had ended up coupling together a 2-to-1 combiner for the other antenna. But the 4-band combiner, at least the way you're going to get one from me, I mean, those are the 4 frequencies. You can't pick and choose any other frequencies.
Oh, it's 80, 40, 20, and 10.
That's on the 4, and on the 6
Okay.
band, I add 30 meters and I add 15 meters.
I think that's a pretty good coverage.
It is.
That's pretty good. That's the essence. Although it would be, what you're missing at that point is 17 and 12. They're relatively close. I guess I should figure out logarithmically what's the percentage change from band to band.
I could do something heroic, or I could put out a blank circuit board and tell people, well, here's how you wind the coil, and here are the capacitors you need. So if somebody wants to do a custom one, that would be easy. But as far as I don't know if I'm prepared to supply a bunch of random filters. That's all.
I don't think you should. I think the 6-band combiner is great, and if you had people who want to use all 8 of your outputs can put 2 extra dipoles on there. They need a filter though, so you probably need to think about us.
I think I'm going to end up with single band filters for.
I think the only single band. But I don't know that you need it for each hand band, do you? You just need it for 17 and 12, because the other bands, well, if they're is there a way to take your 6-band and get access to the individual filter sections, right? I mean, if you in the same way that
you mean if somebody were to want to change something, I mean, yeah, they could. I mean, it's surface mount, and it's kind of fine detail, and getting those inductors is, it's not.
No. What I was suggesting, Paul, was that take your 6-band filter. Could you have a little jumper inside for each of the 6 bands, so that if someone wanted to add, say they had a separate antenna for 15 meters, they wouldn't combine it. They could take the single band output and feed it to their 15-meter antenna. But they need the filtering. You can't connect output 6 directly to the 15-meter antenna, but you could use the 15-meter section of your 6-band combiner if it could be separated from the other.
Well, a new layout, I could add a jumper and some pads to, but then you're talking about. Well, I know, I could use one of those U.FL connectors on there so they could put another SMA cable onto the now isolated filter section. I mean, it's a possibility.
Okay, well, not for, I don't think you're going to do this for the Eclipse, but I do think
No,
that,
probably not.
but it occurs to me that would, rather than have you build, design and fabricate and stock, 8 different filters, single band filters, could you somehow make your 6-band combiner into configurable to be 6 single band combiners, filters going to 6 different antennas, up to 6 different antennas.
Yeah, somebody's going to have to want to drill holes in a back panel or put it in a new case or something like that. It's certainly possible, and actually it's not a bad idea if we think people want to do that.
Well, let's see what the demand is. But anyway,
Yeah.
I just threw out that as a evolution of your 6-band.
It's worth considering for sure. Yeah, I want to know how people want to use these things, and then that was part of the deal with the beacon blasters when we started out. We didn't really know what kind of the sweet spot was going to be, and it took a while. We were halfway through the design process before we kind of nailed it down. So. And the filters, I think we're in the same state now.
I think specifically, I think the 2 people I'm helping is Michael Neruda, who's I think still with us online, and I think Michael has told me he has a 80-meter inverted V and a 40-meter inverted V.
Correct.
And 2 multi-band verticals. Right? Is that right?
That's correct.
So you've got four antennas. You might you'll want to connect the 80, one output of the Whisper Son to your 80-meter, the second output to the 40-meter inverted V. Now you've got 4 more outputs, but you have a combiner that is only useful on 2 bands, right? The combiner is only going to be good for you to combine 20 and 10. So you're going to have 2.
And it still needs filters on the isolated antennas.
And
80 and 40 still need the filters, yeah.
Yes, you're going to need. Oh yeah, that's right. Of course.
Anyway, you don't have to fully populate the filter combiner. I mean, just leave some of the inputs unplugged, and then but that means you're stacking up, 1 filter combiner for each antenna, and not using all the ports necessarily. It's doable.
Not a problem.
Hey, Nathaniel, this was supposed to be your meeting, right? I mean, I don't want to dominate it. Nice meeting you, by the way.
Nice meeting you too. Well, it's sort of my meeting. I mean, this is the Tapper Hamsci meeting. So usually, Dave Larson is the MC, and then everyone else is discussing the different projects. So I just kind of talk where I can here. So I'm usually more on the organizational side of putting together the Hamsci workshop and trying to actually analyze the data to publish it into papers and things like that. And the Tapper group is usually the ones that are actually developing this particular hardware. So it's a team effort.
Okay.
We're really
I'm very much enjoying this. So thank you for letting me participate.
Yeah.
Now that we have you with us, Nathaniel, one of the issues that I didn't hear back from Rachel about looking at the comparison of the Whisper Demon grape and Grape 2 data from WWE from Dave Schwartz.
Mm.
We sent an email off. I don't think anything came back.
And you talked to her on Thursday in person too, or on Zoom.
I think I did.
I
Yes,
remember you talking to her.
Okay.
So I'll
Well,
have to try to follow up on that again.
okay. Well, if you have occasion to,
Yeah,
it would be nice to have some validation of the Whisper Demon Grape system.
I agree with that.
Before the eclipse, because if there's something wrong with the recordings, we
Well,
won't be able to
maybe
fix it.
I talked with her this morning, and for this coming Monday, she's supposed to um come up with a draft of her presentation for the Hamsci workshop.
Mhm.
So maybe on a Thursday, I can remember to encourage her to include this in her observations or in her presentation.
Well, I would appreciate it because I don't really know what, the format of the data. So I'm
Yeah,
not sure. I know things are broken.
yeah.
We are gathering a lot of data at this point, amongst at least how many sites are up and running and gathering active data now, Rob? I haven't looked myself in the past week or two, but there are several sites that are capturing all the WWV stations concurrently and uploading them to Bill's server at the University of Alabama. But we can't. Bill does not have a program yet that actually unpacks those multi-channel uploads. He does for displaying the spectrogram for single channel uploads, but I haven't seen one for the multi-channel ones yet. And there's a couple of months worth of data, at least from some stations, of multi-channel data on WW.
Are these, so it looks like this, that's KPH, so that's definitely one of the Whisper Demon stations. But I guess some of these others are also Whisper Demon.
Well, let's see. There's should be KFS and KPH in around San Francisco.
Looks like the KFS one
yeah,
stopped uploading for some reason.
Well, I need help from Franco and or Phil because I can't get Radio Demons to start there. It complains about multicast name collisions, and I don't understand it well enough.
Yeah, I was wondering if you knew what's going on at KFS on the Think Center 1.
It's died. I don't, and until Tom Yarish goes out there next Saturday and replugs I don't think we won't get anything. There is a Think Center, there is a Ryzen out there that is working well. So if you wanted to do some work, you could use the Ryzen.
So what do you
which
mean
is a-
is died? Is like the server is dead? Like
No, the server's fine. Yeah, the AAA doesn't appear on the USB bus. It's just not there.
bummer.
And I've seen this occur. This happened to Bill Engley, Engelke. Is that how I pronounce his name? He was offline and sent me a note this morning. I gave him. He had only 4 gigs of memory in his Ryzen, and that's just not enough to run the Whisper Demon Grape feature.
This problem of USB devices falling off and not being seen, it seems to be just common with Linux machines at least, and other USB devices I've seen it. And the only fix seems to be power cycle. So if you want a reliable machine, we're still going to have to find a way to power cycle remotely.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, well, that's a good point. And maybe
I've seen it happen with devices other than the RX 888.
Well, yeah, I haven't, but I don't use a lot of USB attached devices. So it's we should.
I've had some interesting behavior on the Pis themselves. If you plug the wrong thing in, it gets confused, like a keyboard, So they were talking about this morning.
Well, I have some PCs allow you to do, can toggle the DC going to a USB port, but I think that's a fairly uncommon feature of PCs. I don't think the B-Links have that capability. So, that's not the solution. The only solution is a web-controlled power strip, and where you can, I guess, power cycle the whole computer with the RX 888 attached. It does seem to be associated with powering up. Once they're up, I haven't seen them go away. But I shouldn't say that. I guess that's what happened to KPH, although it had suffered an extended outage, so it may have been that it just didn't come up afterwards. But right now, the solution is somebody physically has to go and unplug the 888 and plug it back in.
Is yeah, okay. Is it possible to get some sort of I don't know, dead man switch kind of thing, software
That's what
watchdog that would, without human intervention would trigger an external power cycle?
There are such, I have a couple, I'll bring them back from Maui, a couple of these web controlled power strips. They have a web page on them, and you can configure it so that it pings a device, and the device doesn't respond to a ping, then it cycles the outlet. So, but that's not as really what we need, because of course the host computer is responding to pings. The problem is that
the host would have to recognize
that there's nothing on the USB port, and you have to, and issuing a reboot, I don't think is enough to restore. I have been a little reluctant to just do a reboot on that Think Center at KFS, because it's so hard to gain access there if it fails to come back. So it's working. Anyway. That's this is a problem that has to be addressed, though, for reliability of, especially for remotely controlled sites like KPH and South America, or
Fargo.
McMurdo or anything like that. You really got to have a mechanism in place. At KFS, actually, what I did was I wrote a little daemon. In fact, it's checked into my GitHub page, kiwimonitor.sh, which just wakes up and it you can do more than ping. It actually does more than ping. It actually goes to the Kiwi and verifies that the Kiwi is reporting web pages and so on. And if it so that, because Kiwis can get into a state where they will continue to respond to pings, but they just won't respond with any audio received data. So I had to write my own, which in turn introduced its own set of vulnerabilities to the system. So,
hey Rob, do you happen to know if the B-Link, if it powers cycles, like if the power just drops, is that power plug, not power plug, but the button, a mechanical one that stays in the on position so that when the power is restored, it'll automatically power up, or is
no, it is not. On the B-Link, you need to go in and make two changes in the BIOS. One is buried deep in the BIOS advanced submenu tree is a setting that it says always AC always on. So it always, anytime AC appears, it turns itself on. And the second one, which is just as important, is the fan control. They ship the B-Links for gamers, and the gamers don't want to hear the fans running. So they set the fans so that they're basically sitting at idle all the time. And when Whisper Daemon runs all the CPUs on the B-Link for a minute, it almost immediately hits thermal limits, ADC, and then the B-Link throttles back its CPUs to keep from overheating itself, at which point you get half of the real CPU performance of the B-Link. Not a big deal for many people, but at KFS, it kept me from running the whole site off of the V-Link because the V-Link was overheating. So you need to go and do that. And it's one of the reasons I recommend the B-Link brand AMD Ryzen 5, 5560U, because I know that all the ones we bought have the same BIOS, and that BIOS has that fan setting. Whereas I have a different brand of here at my home, and it doesn't have it doesn't give me access to fan settings in the BIOS. So I don't know. I haven't really had time to test it, but it's the B-Link actually does give you that access.
Well, I'm
Clint
gonna have to go back up to
wrote this
Fargo
up,
and
right?
access that BIOS.
I
Just
Didn't
at the
Clint,
very least to turn the AC setting on.
Yes.
I didn't do that.
Oh, I thought I had been
I did.
publishing it to the Whisper Demon forum, but I didn't. Well,
I didn't pick it up. Well,
okay. Well,
hopefully the power will be stable until I get up there
yeah.
next time.
Yes. Well, let's hope so. It's I don't remember if it may come up. It may be in the last state, return to the last operating state mode. That's typically one of the choices in the BIOS, and I don't remember, but I tend to think you have to push the button after a power outage, and by default. So, I don't know that Bill Engelke has made that change to his BIOS. And I ran out of time to do it to the B-Link up at KPH, so I'm asking Tom to go up there on Saturday and do it.
Rob, since
Yes.
you opened those RX88, do they have a JTAG header? So
No.
could it possible to have something else connected to reset it, forcefully? No. Okay.
No, they don't.
There's
Nothing.
no headers, nothing inside that
I
box
didn't see it.
beside the.
I've hide the one that for the external clock input.
Okay, bummer.
Yeah, it is yeah.
I was
But
hoping,
even
there would be.
yeah, I know. Well, I think your work, and I think right that when your work that may be a path to our own, a quick path to having our own alternative to the 888.
Yeah,
and
I know
and
Phil
I
Harmon is working on something there like
yeah
that too.
yeah. So maybe Phil Harmon will come up with something that's is a successor. I just need so many of them right now that I ordered two more today. I just couldn't wait, And I have all the little components. The modifications are pretty easy, and they've been, the ones I modified have been pretty. They haven't failed catastrophically or even overheated once I make these small changes to the thermal changes to them. So they're useful, but boy, I hate it. There's all of these little gotchas. Now, and John Ackerman reported that he had lots of RFI at his 888 installation, which was solved by wiggling the USB cable. So Michael, you might want to, before you go up there, take a different USB cable with you. In fact, I ordered one today. That's a little 1 foot that long cable, USB 3, of course, that John has had good experience with. His theory was that there was some intermittency in the shield of this USB cable that's supplied with the 888. It's also extremely long. It's like 6 foot, 2 meters or something, and it's unnecessarily long. So that's another characteristic that we need to be aware of in putting together these receive systems.
There are a number of these devices available. Actually, this is the most flexible one, and it was cheaper. This one's from somebody in Austria. And then there's ones that measure voltages and stuff. But what these mostly are, you probably can't see very well, but there's 2 rows in the middle, and they're diodes, LEDs. And this particular one has virtually every USB type connector that's made. And you connect one end to one side and you loop it back to the other connector on the other side. And it tells you what wires are actually being used, because it's highly variable. It tells you an awful lot about the usability of a particular cable. It doesn't measure much. It really is just showing you, but whether it's following, some of the power standards and stuff. There's also other gadgets. Oh, I don't know where they've all crawled off to, but on USB 3 will measure the at least this one's a pretty expensive one, but this measures the behavior of USB 3, actually using one of the chips that we are using in these radios. Uses it as a check, to evaluate ports and stuff, make sure they're working as advertised. They don't tell you everything, but they're kind of helpful.
Well, I think in developing a USB-based product, boy, there seems to me a lot of subtleties that need to be considered and then monitored, because this kind of going deaf, disappearing from the USB port, that's a big problem for a research tool. Yeah. That's just I was put 2 888s out at KPH in part to have one-to-one redundancy, which fortunately I did, because otherwise it'd be down. The whole site would be down right now. Fortunately, one of them is working. But
another thing to do with RFI, and the USB cable and the other cables. I mean, bring yourself a big box of these things, clamp on ferrites, use the proper mix. Don't use a, VHF mix, but, 43 or anyway, and take a bunch, as many turns as you can fit, around the cable or through the core.
I think
makes a difference.
John's report was that he tried that with that cable that came with the 888, and it didn't help much.
It depends on what the problem is, but it will fix some problems, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, there's no one fix for everything, for sure. Let's see, you just but at least if you have the spectrum view now, you can see that you have a problem. Without it, you don't really know. You're looking at Phil's control page, and it's giving you, a 0 to 30, a dBm full scale reading, and it's like measuring RF with a DVM. I mean, you get a little insight from the AC levels, but it doesn't really tell you much about real problems in the spectrum views.
So when are we going to get that code? The spectrum display for Phil's code in the 888. When is that going to be something that
I don't know.
I can get on my machine?
Franco and Phil. Phil?
It's already there. So you basically have to install latest version of KNQ Radio, the one where Phil fixed the issues. And then you go to my repository where I copy the code from John, and it's just a few commands. And I can guide you through that, or Michael, and we can have a session and we can write a bash script to put in Whisper Demon.
Yeah,
I consider myself to be kind of the canonical idiot newbie user who barely remembers anything about Linux. So, if you can help me make it work, then
definitely.
Then you can deploy it to the world at large.
Also, for
Franco, we need
sorry, go ahead, Phil.
I was going to say, Franco, we need a few other features that really make this work right. We need some systemd service files, stuff like that, to start it up automatically.
Okay. I'll
And
put John
also, if you
service
want to
files
handle
and
multiple instances of Radio D too, that needs,
oh, good point.
yeah.
Yeah, good point. I saw your message to John.
Go ahead.
No, I think, I mean, again, I think, I don't know if it's true or not, but it sounds like John, what's it called, Moulton is very busy with his other project, the TFE1, now it's called the radio is putting together. So I'm not sure how much he can help. So Phil, I'll try to do as much as I can.
Yeah, I mean, we could have a repository with all three of us having the ability to push updates.
Oh yeah, I can get
If
you
if
right
John's
to
okay
commit
with that.
there. Hmm?
Yeah, if John's okay with that. I mean, right now, the repository I'm using is yours.
Yeah, and I can give you a commit to you and John commit right, because John initially put everything together with KNQ Radio, but it's probably an older version that I don't know
Okay.
if you want to have
Well,
around.
if John's not doing anything right now, then yeah, we could make this, because I don't want to, fork off from John unnecessarily. If he's willing to buy back the changes we're doing now, that would be great.
Yeah. But if you want to have, I can give you rights to my repo, and you can, go
please.
ahead and.
Please, yeah, because I have a bunch of things I could do. As I think,
Yeah, definitely, Phil. I mean, I'll give you, as soon as we're done with this meeting, I'll give you access, and it should be good.
Wonderful, thank you.
Yeah, just ask. Anyhow, Paul, I was gonna say the RX 888 has a 5351 inside. So if you look at the code in KNQ Radio, I put that you can choose all the values in there, because you can directly call the I2C bus to set the settings for the 5351. So you can play around and do whatever you feel like.
Yeah, I'd be afraid to break something, but
Oh, no,
one of
no,
these days I'll dig into this stuff and maybe understand it.
Are you using the 5051 for your whisper sound? Oh yeah, then
I've got 4 of them. I had to do some tricks because they all have the same I squared C. I'm losing it. I squared C interface code, address. So I was looking at multiplexing chips, but you had to control those. I mean, the multiplexing was slower than the data I wanted to send. So I ended up using basically what turned out to be a 4-to-1 analog switch so I could make a bidirectional thing. And anyway, it's working quite well. I just have to control the timing kind of carefully when I talk to them, but that's part of the structure is, the timing of the thing. But that was interesting. I didn't know how I was going to do that, but I did. So there are 4 of them.
There are no alternative addresses for those.
Not the little ones, the little 10-pin, I guess, the A version. They have another one. I forget the name of it. I think it's got a address select pin on it. You can, set a bit high or low, and that'll change. So I'll give you 2 addresses, which still wouldn't help me. Although the controller I'm using does have 2 I2C or more, even I2C buses. I just wanted to use the same bus for everything. So I made it work.
Okay.
In the meantime, Paul, you can actually get it running now. I mean, Whisper Demon, KA9Q will work with Whisper Demon and John Melton's code for the full spectrum display. You just have to redirect, you have to edit the code that John wrote called web.c so that it's pointing to the right RTP port or that K9Q delivers, and then it'll run.
I'm sure I could eventually do that. At the moment, I'm kind of, my personal bandwidth has been totally consumed here. So I'm gonna wait, and maybe if Rob can do a remote upgrade on the whole thing in situ, that would be wonderful once it's up and running. Otherwise, when I probably won't until after the eclipse, I'm going to have enough time to really dig into it. Right now, it better be close to plug and play if I want to get a receiver up and running here. So again, so that's a good good test case, because I think we really do want to have, plug and play capability when we're deploying these things. At least I would think so.
Yeah, Phil, if you go in GitHub, you should see my invite, so I should be able to get access to that repository.
Oh, great. I'll go check. Thank you.
Yep. I need to get going for bed, guys. It's getting late here. Rob, I'll touch base with you and we can see how to get that thing running.
Yeah, unless anybody has any questions for me or anything, yeah, I better get going too. My wife wanted to have dinner about an hour ago, so I better be careful here. But again,
Good night, everyone.
it's been I really appreciate and nice meeting you all, and I'll try to keep in touch and look forward to the HAMSI get together too.
Thank
Take care,
you.
Paul.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, it'll be really
I'll
nice
sign
to
off
meet you in
too.
person, Paul. Thank you,
Oh,
everybody.
my pleasure.
Peace all.
Okay, and how do we get out of here? There we are. Leave.